So here we have a small bedside fan. We have our little project here. We have the remote. And if I press the button on my remote, the LED comes on, but you'll notice the fan comes on as well. When I press it again, the fan goes off, the button goes off. So this little project turns on and off via a remote. It turns our little bedside fan. So this little project can be used for any low voltage appliance that you want to switch on and off remotely. So I could stand far away, not that it's going to be of any use to stand far away. You want to be close to the air of the fan. But just to demonstrate how this thing works, how we can remotely turn on and off this fan. In my previous project, I built a little remote. The remote, when I press the button, switches on this whole bank of LEDs. I loved the project so much, but it was pretty ugly because it's got all this stuff separate. But I do so love what it does, so that I try to make all of that and put it onto just one little breadboard. So now I've made a new edition, this one that all fits. There's the relay, there's the TSOP, there's a little transistor, there's an LED. And now when I point this remote at this one, you will see it does the same thing. And if you listen, you'll hear the click of the relay. Every time the LED comes on, the relay toggles as well. So I've managed to consolidate all that onto here. Now I've made it so that this will only work. Watch, if I point it down, that comes on, that stays off. The same remote switches both of them on and off. If I try a different remote, you will see that even though I'm pressing that, neither of them comes on. So I've specifically made this so that it only responds to my homemade remote. Now I could easily have made it that any remote turns this on. Let me show you on the computer what I just need to change one number and I can make any remote power these and change these. So let's just do that. So we've reprogrammed this, and you can see that my little remote still turns this on and off. But now I've got a satellite TV decoder remote, and that too works. So by just changing that number, I'm able to use this remote. The only problem is when I'm using this remote, it might accidentally switch this on and off. I think almost any button on this remote works. So if I'm outside using this, it'll all work perfectly fine with this remote, but if there's other remotes around, it's going to affect it. So I'm going to change this immediately back to I'm going to change it back so that it only works on my homemade remote. Now that I've reprogrammed, I'm just checking, obviously that one still works, and we can see that my programmer works again. Let's try this other remote. No, it doesn't work again. So we've changed it back. So now I'm pretty satisfied with this little circuit. It uses, instead of the old one that used the Pi Pico, it just uses a tiny little Picket chip. A Pic12F1501 chip here, which is much smaller, much cheaper. So now that I've finished with all this, I can remove the lines that come from the programmer. So there's the data line. There is, let's see what line that is. That's probably the clock line. This is the M-clear line. This is the VSS line. and this is the VDD line. So there, that already looks a lot better. Well, having removed all the little leads to the programmer, the Pic12F programmer, we just need to tidy up all this mess, especially this LED with its little resistor. These long wires, we need to make them shorter and flatter so that this all sits neatly. So that is my next goal, to just make this look a little better so that it can last more permanently. So let's do that. So now we have shortened and neatened all the wires, and now we just want to prove that it still works. And one can hear the click of the relay, so we know not only does the LED work, the relay also works. All we have to do now is solder. There is the common. One of these is the normally open, I forget which one, but we'll just put a ohmmeter across it and see which one's the normally open and one is normally closed. But the middle one, I remember, is the common one. And we just have to solder 2 wires, and then our project is complete. And this will now switch on an LED. So here is the MPLAB Pic12F1501 program. We set the function of this program is to get the Pic12F1501 to detect 38 kilohertz signals. It has a TSOP, then toggles port A, which toggles a relay and an LED. All of these are just standard settings like watchdog timer, brownout detection, etc. You just copy them. This static character flashing LEDs is going to turn the port A on and off. So we have to have that character. These 3 things are quite important. Tris A sets which of the A pins are input, and it starts 0, 1, 2 is output, O for output, I for input. Actually they're 1s and 0s, but that's how you remember it. So 0 and 1 are inputs, 2 is an output, 3 is an input. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3 is an input, 4 is an output, 5, 6, 7 are input pins. Then Ansel A, make sure that they're all digital. We're not using analog. I think the default is analog. I'm not sure we needed weak pull-ups, but I think we may have used it for the TSOP or something, so I'm not sure this is even important. We set our clock to 16 megahertz and we use the internal clock. That's what that does. And then all this does is, if port A bits register A5 is 0, in other words, if the TSOP is pulled down, that means the remote is being pressed, let the count be count plus 1, and it keeps on counting until it gets up to 1500. So if the TSOP is pressed, it will keep counting that it's pressed, and as long as it's pressed for long enough to register 1500 or 1500 cycles of this while loop, that's going to take it so that my remote works and no other remote. Now if I change that to 1000, then other remotes will also be able to activate this. But if I put it on 1500, most commercial remotes will not stay on for this long and extended continuous period of being on. So this is a line. I played with these numbers just to make sure when my remote worked and when others stopped working. Then this little bit here, it toggles the static character flashing LEDs. It toggles it. If it was on, it goes off. If it was off, it goes on. And then we delay for 1 second. 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. So we don't have it continually going, having the relay going on, off, on, off, on, off. It's got to have a 1 second delay between going on and going off, so that gives a person time to remove their finger from the remote. And that is how this program on MPLAB, it's written in C, how it works. Well, I finally turned age 70. So if you read Psalm 90, it says it's downhill the whole way from there. It says 70 years are appointed unto a man. And if by reason of strength or a good medical aid you prolong it to 80, those days are going to be full of labor and trouble. So that's what the good book says. So I'm really, like all old men, wanting to reflect on what does it mean that I've turned 70, and we all want to give our tuppence worth of advice. Well, this is my advice, having turned 70. This is the sum of my wisdom. I say, life has been very, very unfair, very, very unfair to me. For a person of such low talent as myself, I feel that I've been unfairly blessed. I've lived a really enjoyable, wonderful, very good, totally nice life, which I don't deserve in the least. And so I say all the glory and credit goes to God, who I've known all my life. I don't know a time when I didn't know God, and he's not kept me from trouble, but he's kept me through the trouble, and here I am, here I sit. So I am supremely grateful at being so unfairly treated, and I trust that in this extra time that I will be treated to the same kindness, mercy, grace that God has always treated, and gentleness that he's always treated me with. And that is totally unfairly, if you had to take compared to the rest of the world, the rest of all other people. So I have nothing to complain about. I just say that, wow, I don't deserve not a fraction, 1% of what I have. So thankfully, life's not about what you deserve, but it's all due to the grace and goodness of God, and that has been lavished on me, and it's all to his credit that I've just say I have so enjoyed. I enjoyed my 46 years of teaching. I never planned to go into teaching. It was a pure, I think, divine guidance. I went to teaching, enjoyed all 46 years of teaching science. And now that I'm retired from teaching and doing other things like electronics, it's all still so interesting and so wonderful. So I just look forward to it, and I'm really grateful to God for his immense kindness and unfair love to me. And he loves you too. That is the thing. God loves everybody equally. Well, I don't say equally, but because if he loved everyone equally, maybe things would be fair. But, I think it's a matter of why not just, there's only one game in town, and that's God's game. That's the only place you're offered eternal life. So you might as well get with the program. And then when you're on God's team, he makes sure that he's always got your back. That's the beautiful thing of knowing God, that in this life he's got your back, and in the hereafter he's got your back. And there's no other game in town. There's no other God. There's no other religion. There's no other nothing. So, yeah, if one's unfairly treated, I guess it's all because I'm on God's team, and he's got all power to treat his team players as he wishes.